Alright, we got 2 more weeks until November 7th when I hope to short squeeze slash Hunt Brothers slash corner the market in Bismuth, and I hope you will join me in all that. Thought I would show some of the equipment that I've been using to pour some of these molds. So two materials I use for molds are silicone and graphite. Graphite is obviously a heck of a lot more durable, but obviously silicone is more flexible when you can get intricate shapes. You definitely couldn't pour that with graphite, I guess, unless it was multi-sided and you could take it apart like a puzzle. The downside of silicone is that it doesn't last forever. I would estimate you can get 5 to 10 pours, so depending on how you do it. If you preheat them, you can maybe get 4 pours or even less. But the nice thing about preheating them is that they pour into all the little crevices. You guys saw the difference with those hearts, right? But it obviously does a heck of a lot more damage to the molds. Without preheating, you definitely don't get as much detail, but they will last a few more pours. It's a little bit of a trade-off. So this is one that has completely fallen apart. I can still kind of use this by putting it in the steel pot and surrounding it with some other material like the other graphite molds to hold it in place, but I'm lucky if I can get 1 or 2 more pours out of that probably. This one's holding up a little bit better. I can't remember the specifics of this is definitely a heck of a lot of better kind of silicone than that. As for the pot itself, steel is much better for pouring, but ceramic is a lot better for crystal growing, right? I showed you guys early on I tried to make 3-dimensional crystals. I don't necessarily like doing that anymore because a lot of the bismuth ends up getting oxidized and it feels kind of wasteful, although I know how to convert the oxides back to bismuth. I'll get to that in a second. Now I highly recommend this mold, because if you do a lot of pouring at the end when you're down to the last bits of bismuth, you can always pour some pyramid out of it, right? Just depending on how much bismuth is left. That's always the last thing I pour, and I end up with pyramids of all sizes as a result. The Buddha comes in the graphite Buddha comes in 3 sizes: the big one, the medium one, and the small one. And here's a King Tut. There's a big one and the small one. This one I really like. It's Donald Trump. And many years ago I had a slang term. If somebody was doing a bad job and they deserved to be fired, I would say, I hope he gets Donald Trumped. Because Donald Trump used to go on the air and say, you're fired, right? Lately, Donald Trump has a new meaning to me. It means to refuse to concede defeat, right? So I was at a backgammon tournament, and this guy was clearly losing, but he was acting like a Donald Trump and saying how other people had cheated and all that. And I said, that Donald Trump over there. And I do tutoring, and sometimes some of my students love to play Donald Trump, right? They get a D in their class, and they make up all sorts of excuses on why they should have gotten an A. Their teacher is an idiot, or what. And in the back of my mind, I just think they're a Donald Trump. So I'm thinking I'll maybe pour some of these coins, and when I get really bad service at a restaurant, I'll tip one of them. Although I probably wouldn't use bismuth for that. I'd probably use a cheap metal like aluminum or zinc, or maybe tin or lead, right? But definitely don't want to waste my precious bismuth on somebody who's worthy of being Donald Trumped, right? This is an electric stove. It gets about it's about 1,000 watts, and it will melt bismuth without being so hot that it burns it, right? Now, speaking of the burning problem, after you do a lot of rounds of melting, a lot of the bismuth will oxidize into slag, and if you do a lot of this, it's worth investing in I'm going to be melting other metals anyway, so I need that. It's worth investing in a furnace that can do at least 850 degrees Celsius. So the way you reduce slag back to bismuth is you heat it up with charcoal. You got to grind this up, obviously, and the bismuth oxide will react with the carbon to make bismuth and carbon dioxide, but definitely make sure you have enough ventilation for that, because it can make a small amount of carbon monoxide as well. And there it is. That's all the tools of my trade. Why the fuck would you buy silver when you could buy 100 times more bismuth?